Here comes Bernie Sanders from behind. Watch out, Hillary. Watch out. Now, a little fun and excitement in the race already. Bernie Sanders is all over Iowa. Iowa's all over Bernie Sanders. There's a lot of Bernie love going on. So, New York Times, a big article saying, whoa, what are these crowds about? This guy is inspiring huge crowds that they didn't expect. New York Times didn't expect. Washington, D.C. establishment didn't expect all throughout Iowa. So now let me give you some of the details, and then we'll discuss what's actually behind this. They start out the story by saying a mere 240 people live in the rural northeast Iowa town of Kensett. So when more than 300 crowded into the community center on Saturday night to hear Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, many driving 50 miles, the cell phones of Democratic leaders statewide began to buzz. Now, look, I don't make too much hay out of how many people show up at rallies. The bottom line is polling. People say ignore the polling. That's nonsense. The polling tells you roughly how many people are actually going to vote for that person, right? So because I know, especially in the late stages of a campaign, people get excited. Oh, my God, Mitt Romney's got a lot of people showing up at rallies. Yeah, at least 45% of the country is going to vote for him. Of course, a lot of people are going to show up at rallies. Now, earlier in the primaries, it's a slightly different situation. And here, I can see why they would be excited, because if a town is only 240 people and 300 people show up in the town, well, that's quite something. All right, now there's more on that from the New York Times. They explained he drew 700 people to an event on Thursday night in Davenport, for instance, the largest rally in the state for any single candidate this campaign season, and far more than the 50 people who attended a rally there on Saturday with former Governor Martin O'Malley of Maryland. So Martin O'Malley's not got to feel too good about that. He declared his candidacy over the weekend. He's in, former governor of Maryland, of course, as they just explained. But he's not getting a lot of love and attention. Why? Because Bernie Sanders has a real progressive agenda, and he's been shouting it from the rooftops for his entire career. This is not designed just for a primary run. This is not just politics. It is who Bernie Sanders is. Now, this isn't polling yet, but still, those are big-sized crowds. So, is Hillary feeling a little badly burned? I don't know. Let's go to the audio tape. We found audio. It's weird. She was in a vent somewhere, and this is what she said about Bernie Sanders' rise in Iowa.
I'm still alive, only I'm very badly burned.
Okay, interesting. Now, more on Senator Sanders and his rise from the New York Times. They say some of Mr. Sanders' policy prescriptions, including far higher taxes on the wealthy and deep military spending cuts, may eventually persuade Democrats that he is unelectable in a general election. Isn't that so funny? That is the assumption of the New York Times writers. But wouldn't logic tell you the exact opposite? That all these folks are showing up because of that, not in spite of that? It's not like they were confused as to who's more liberal, Bernie Sanders or Martin O'Malley or Hillary Clinton. They know who's more liberal. That's why they're coming. Now, again, those 700 people, no matter which small Iowa town they're in, are not going to decide the election. Polling is relevant. Hillary Clinton is far ahead. And yes, Democratic voters even, do get skittish and nervous historically. So Howard Dean's doing, well, oh, I'm a little nervous. I'm going to go with John Kerry, milquetoast. Right? So that's happened. We know that. So it's not an unfair thing to bring up here. But the assumptions in the Washington reporters are interesting. Well, if you're really for higher taxes on the wealthy, eventually you're obviously going to be unelectable. I wouldn't be so quick to think that, let alone cuts to defense spending. Those are exactly what the doctor ordered, apparently. So, and again, that's not from my perspective. That's from obviously the perspective of the Iowa folks that are going to these events. Now, this piece here, this next quote cracks me up. They say, judging from Mr. Sanders' trip here last week, there is real support for this message. Though some Democrats also simply want to send a warning shot to Mrs. Clinton to get her to visit here more. Okay, think about how silly this is. God, political reporting sometimes, the Washington crowd. Okay, here's what I mean by that. Do you think there's a family in the middle of Iowa thinking, hey, let's stop what we're doing in the middle of a lovely weekend and go watch Bernie Sanders speak because we'd like to send a message to Hillary Clinton that she should come to Iowa more? No. That's how political people think. That's not what the guy who went to the rally, who brought his family to the rally thinks. He thinks, I could have gone to a picnic instead, and instead I went to a Bernie Sanders thing. The only reason you do that is if you're really excited about Bernie Sanders. You really want to hear him out. Not because you think, oh, hey, honey, what do you think? Should we send a message to Hillary today? Yeah? Oh, yeah, let's go to the Bernie rally. No real person thinks that way. Only political people think that way. And to assume that's why large crowds are showing up at Bernie Sanders events? Come on, man. Wake up to reality. And by the way, if they wanted to do that, why didn't they go with to a rally of a person who Washington thinks is far more electable, Martin O'Malley? Why didn't they say, hey, wait a minute, let's take time out of our day to send Hillary a message through an O'Malley rally? Because they're not excited by O'Malley. And they're not trying to send a message to anyone else. They want to hear what Bernie Sanders has to say. I know it's tough for Washington people to get that through their heads. Now, look, Hillary does have a tough perception issue here in Iowa. She still has a big lead. But now folks are saying that she's got to win by such a gigantic margin, otherwise it'll be an upset. Okay, I'm not sure that's fair to Hillary Clinton. So here's Kurt Meyer. He's the Tri-County Democrats chairman there. He says, let's say she wins by less than 20%. That's a two-ticket out of Iowa thing, meaning that's positive for assuming that Bernie Sanders is the second place vote getter there, and that's a big assumption. It could be anybody else. But they're saying she's got to win by more than 20 points. That's not fair. Okay, look, I'm not a proponent of Hillary Clinton. I'm a progressive. But to say that if she doesn't win by 20 points, she loses is ridiculous. Be fair to everybody here. Okay, now, finally, they talked to Bernie Sanders here. They got a quote of his at the end here. But again, the framing amuses me. They say the next day in Muscatine, Iowa, after a rally at a community college drew twice the expected audience of 50, Mr. Sanders seemed to be experiencing a contact high from the size of his crowds. He said, be amazed at what you saw here. I want to win this. No, that's 3 strikes and you're out. Trip Gabriel and Patrick Healy wrote this article. Overall, it's a positive article about Bernie Sanders and how he maybe is going to give Hillary Clinton a run for their money. But that's 3 snide comments like, oh, are you high, thinking you might actually win this? No, they didn't say he's high. They said he got a contact high. I got it, dude. I got it. Oh, he's unelectable. He's kooky. People are coming for different reasons, not really for Bernie Sanders. And he must be high if he thinks he's going to win. But how do I explain away all the crowds? Well, you don't. Maybe you pay attention to those crowds. Maybe they're trying to send you a message. They're trying to send Washington a message saying, hey, you know what? We hate the way things are run, and we don't want another Bush or Clinton to keep running them just as they are. We'll take anybody to overturn the apple cart. And here's what we know about Bernie Sanders. He's going to overturn the apple cart. It's not a bad thing. They're not going there despite that. They're going there because of that.